This is a lot more background information than I think we've ever been given on this show. Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're exploring the 141st episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as the 29th episode of Season 3 titled Master Vile and the Metallic Armor Part 1. We begin this episode in a field where everyone is riding horses. Apparently the police department has sponsored the track, and Kat suggests that they gallop? Whatever, Bulk and Skull are there with Stone talking about how much they don't want to gallop with the others. Then we see a stupid shot of everyone galloping on a horse before an earthquake hits. And Rocky goes, "What's wrong with the horses?" Probably the earthquake, dude. Then suddenly the sky goes dark and Tommy tries to call Zordon, but he's getting no reply. Billy says that it's dark enough so they should be good to leave because Bulk and Skull won't realize that they've been gone for a few seconds. They all teleport away, arriving in a dark, shut-down command center. Even Alpha is offline and Zordon is gone too. On the moon, lightning strikes and everyone is screaming about, "What's happening?" Then suddenly, a weird serpent bone man appears named Master Vile. Rita says, "Meet Master Vile, my father," to everyone. Alpha and Zordon come back online and Zordon says that a super evil presence in the universe knocked them offline. Also, by the by, Rita's father, Master Vile, is here, and Rocky says, "Rita has a father?" I mean, she had to come from somewhere, Rocky. Alpha then says that Vile has conquered the M51 galaxy before. Zordon then lets them know that they've been working on something new for them in case of an emergency. The metallic armor, which they will need to use the voice command, "Metallic armor, power up." That's a lazy voice command, but okay. Zordon then warns that the armor should only be used in case of emergency. Billy then says that's great, but they don't have the Falcon Zord or Ninjor, so maybe they should just focus on that. Then Kat sees on the viewing globe that Bulk, Skull, and Stone are looking for them. In the field, Stone explains that since the sky went dark, a monster will be attacking soon, and he tells them to go ride for help. Who the hell is going to help them? On the moon, Master Vile is mad about Rita marrying Zed, asking why she couldn't have married someone with a skull and a great little jab to Zed. Then Zed boasts about how he has the Falcon Zord and Ninjor, and Rito tries to show off Ninjor's urn, dropping it and smashing it to pieces. Vile tells Rito to get Ninjor and Babu and Squad help, and Master Vile says that he needs Ninjor for his master plan, which apparently involves something called the Zeo Crystal. Then Ninjor grows human size again and he's outsmarting the villains by standing still. Then he just leaves. That was super anticlimactic. Ninjor shows up in the command center and no one seems really that happy to see him. Ninjor and Zordon then explain that the Zeo Crystal is in danger, and apparently it's from the people of the M51 galaxy who hid it away in the Cave of Deception to prevent anyone who isn't pure of heart from touching it. Zordon says that the Caves of Deception are on the moon, under the palace. Apparently, Zed and Rita took over the palace, corrupting it, so it was once all good, but they've not been able to destroy the good Zeo Crystal below. They say that they figured that the crystal will be safe from Zed, but Master Vile might be able to get it, and also the crystal grows in power over time. On the moon, Zed explains how they can't get the Zeo Crystal because the force field around it is nothing to joke about. And Rita says that Zed tried to get it once and look what happened to him, which might be a joke or an actual explanation for why Zed looks the way that he does. Master Vile says he'll take care of it all, and he tosses a bag to Zed to make them feed something to the Tangas. Then Vile leaves and Zed sees that he's going towards Earth in his space skull with Rito and Goldar. Then Vile starts laughing and convulsing before he just barfs up an egg, pours its innards out onto the ground, creating the blue globber. That was unnecessarily disgusting. Vile plans to capture Ninjor and absorb his power with the blue globber. Then they're going to use everything that they already have as ransom to get the Rangers to get the Zeo Crystal for them. In Vile's throne room, they talk to Rita and Zed, and apparently they fed the Tangas wherever was in that bag. In the command center, the Rangers see on the viewing globe that Bulk and Skull are getting attacked by the souped up Tangas. So, it's morphin' time. The Tangas come flying in, and after Aisha says that they're not that tough, she gets punched right in the face. I mean, that's what you get, Aisha. Tommy is cornered and he calls on Ninjor, which makes Vile send down the blue globber. Monster appears grabbing Ninjor from behind and Ninjor just turns giant to try to get away, but then Blue Globber does the exact same thing, still attacking Ninjor, zapping him. They both disappear and then Rocky explains that Ninjor is gone before he gets punched in the face too. Also, all the Rangers really suck right now. The Rangers talk about how they have an emergency situation, so they jump into the air and they activate the metallic armor. And by that they mean glitter that's been added to their current suits while moving in ghost effects. Also, Tommy uses the sunshine to somehow knock Tangas back, and I guess that's the end of that fight. At the command center, Billy explains to Zoran how they had to use a metallic armor on the Tangas because they've never been that strong before. Feel like you could have led with, and our friend has definitely been kidnapped again. Then Tommy says that they have to get the Falcon Zord and the Zeo Crystal. I guess forget Ninjor. Zoran says they need to destroy the Zeo Crystal, and Tommy volunteers, but then Kat says that she'll join and pretend like she's changed her mind about being evil. Then Zoran explains that for whatever dumb reason, the metallic armor won't work on the moon. Guess we just didn't have the suits on that set. Then they just morph, teleporting into the palace. Wait, could they have just done this the entire time? Like, seriously? At the command center, Billy shows the others that he's built a tiny Falcon Zord remote thing that they will be able to use to operate the Shogun Zords and the Ninja Zords at the same time. Remember when they couldn't do anything with the Ninja Zords without the Falcon Zord? We then see Ninjor, who is tied up in the throne room of the Space Skull with Vile and the Blue Globber, and they talk for what feels like forever before Vile sends Blue Globber down to Earth again. The Rangers in the command center see this and they morph. They immediately go into the Shogun Zords, somehow forming the Shogun Megazord without Tommy or Kat at all. Billy then starts to install the remote for the Ninja Megazord, which brings the Ninja Megazord out. Adam says that he's picking up on a monster in the middle of some abandoned buildings because of course they're abandoned. Then Zed shows up on the screen in the Space Skull to say that they suck, and Vile says nope, the monster is going to absorb the energy from the Shogun Megazord. Then he does just that. Tommy watches on as Kat walks up to Zed and Rita taking off her helmet. She says that she wants to be evil again, and they're interested to hear more about that. To be continued. Over the credits, we see extended and deleted bloopers of Bulk and Skull riding horses. This episode's pretty great because it sets up a lot of important things, but it also sucks because it gives us the wimpiest power-up I've ever seen. Seriously, like glitter and ghost effects. But it was mostly a ploy to try to sell toys that have been warming the shelves left over from the movie because they actually release action figures of the Rangers with metallic finish as the paint. Other than that, I think the series is really starting to learn what stakes in story are, which is super refreshing when you look back on the days when nothing of importance happened whatsoever for like 60 plus episodes. Other than that, I think the series is really starting to learn what stakes in story are, which is super refreshing when you look back at the days when nothing basically happened for like 60 episodes in the first season. So will next time continue to be good? Find out then, but until then, may the power protect you.